Yeah, that's it.
Finish line.
I did it. Under 6 minutes. Oh, that's my first time under 6 minutes. Wow. 5:53. That's very impressive. A 5:53.73. My goodness, that is good. Do you want to do well in the Koopathlon mode in Super Mario Party Jamboree? Do you want to essentially almost guarantee yourself a top 5 finish every time? I've got the guide here for you to either make you better, help you learn a few tips or tricks, or at least get you, at bare minimum, a few spots higher than where you are regularly finishing. The majority of my games I'm finishing top 3, at worst top 5. I think the worst I've ever finished is like 8. Without further ado, let's jump into it. I want to help you guys do better if you're still enjoying this mode in Super Mario Party Jamboree. Our first game on the list is Noggin Knock, a whack-a-mole ripoff that's actually quite fun and gets really challenging as the levels go on. I'll start off by saying my best strategy is focusing my eyes on the middle of the screen and moving without really looking one way or the other. This keeps my focus on every single hole in view, and that's really important for seeing where the moles are popping up. It's also important to know what you need to prioritize. You should really be focusing on gold moles first, and then red coins second. Now these mostly only appear in levels 2 and 3, but they do appear, I believe, a little bit in level 1, including the back one popping up at one point. You do not want to miss the giant gold mole that pops up in the back. That's worth the most coins. Then regular gold moles are worth 5, and red coins are worth 3. That should be your main focus, along with not hitting any of the bob-ombs that pop up. Our next minigame that will pop up is Brick Breaker, which is actually my favorite one to play. Now there's actually a bunch of strategy here, and the first thing I can tell you is I usually let go of the Koopa shell right away to get it as close to the left side as possible. Getting that shell quickly over to the left side is so important because you want to hit the red Koopa as fast as possible. The red shell is the winning strategy for this game. Everything revolves around the red shell. You do not want to lose it while clearing blocks. It's still important to try to save the green ones as much as possible, but if you miss a green one by saving a red one, that is always ideal. Just like any game I'll be telling you guys about, knowing when to use your items is also important. But when you have a wide open board or a half full board here of blocks to clear, you want to use your items, get the red shell out of the way, and aim to keep it moving. This is the best strategy to get a lot of points, and I usually do really well on Brick Breaker. Our next mini game is Golden Brown, and I actually don't have a lot of tips for this one. It's probably the most basic mini game out of the bunch, but actually does have a tiny bit of strategy attached to it as the game gets faster and faster. Obviously on the left side of the screen, if you look, it'll show you how much each piece of bread is worth coins-wise. You always want to prioritize the bread that's towards the bottom, obviously as it gives you the most coins. That being said, the more the bread gives you coins-wise, the longer it takes to rise. It's very important to learn the patterns and how long these things take to rise, and quickly remove each using your left stick as fast as possible to get them up at the right times. I can't really give better advice than that. The game's relatively simple, and once you get the timing down, you'll be a pro at it in no time. Following up that last minigame, Spike's Gambit actually does have a bit more strategy attached to it than the last one, and there's a real huge secret that a lot of people don't even know about. If you collect the coins at the right time where you get an item, and you're on the bottom half of this uphill hike, the item will spawn across the middle. This is very important to easily pick up an item faster than your opponents, who are going to have to run all the way to the top to collect the item. Now that doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing to have the item spawn on top. You do get to a point after you get your first item, especially on level 1, where to collect enough coins to get the next one, you usually do have to go to the top. But I'll be showing you in this video how I collected 2 items in the middle and still did really well. It's truly the fastest way to get items in this minigame, and once you get your first and second item, and it's a good one, you can start going crazy everywhere. But make sure to pay attention to the right side of the screen for when your item's going to spawn. The next minigame we have is Down the Hatch, which reminds me a lot of Golden Brown, where it is skill-based, but it is a very limited amount of skill and strategy you can actually use here. The smallest suggestion that I could actually give anyone when they play this is to point your finger precisely and aim for either the tallest part of what you're pushing or the part where you can push the brick or item directly. I know that's quite vague, but I really don't have great strategies for this one. I usually do really well in it, but honestly it is pretty physics based, and that leads to a lot of random BS. But just do your best, watch how I'm playing in this video, and hopefully it helps you out a little bit. Next we have lane change, which is also one of my favorite minigames from the pack. I wish some of these minigames were in the Mario Party mode, especially this one. Even if it was a coin minigame, man is this one fun. Let's start off with the best piece of advice I can give anyone. Spam the A button when you start this minigame. You want to get up to max speed no matter what level you're on. You're trying to beat your opponents. You're not trying to give them some sort of advantage here. So make sure your bar on the left side of the screen goes all the way up to the 5th color. Once you hit yellow, you're good to go, and it's about changing lanes, like the title of the game, as fast as possible to pick up as many coins as possible. A huge piece of advice here, which I think could help anyone do better in this game, is to make sure you're not changing lanes into the Shy Guys you're racing against, or into any of the electric enemies that take up the track. If you have to miss a coin or two to make sure you're still going max speed, so be it. Knowing when to use items as well, just like every other minigame, just a reminder guys, is so important. You don't want to be using your item in this game when there's no coins in front of you. There'll be groups of coins and that's when you want to use an item. But yeah, just practice the game, get used to quickly moving back and forth, and play at max speed. Best advice I can give you. Next we have Coin Conveyor, which I think is largely slept on. I actually really like this game. And the trick to it, the best advice I could tell someone to make sure you get a high score, is to group up each layer of coins and bombs in a row, making sure to leave one side of the board open. As you can see from the video, I got a huge bonus from getting a collection of stacks completed together. This is the way to get a ton of coins in this game. As the levels get harder, you focus more on getting red coins as well, but that's really the best advice I can give you. The other thing I would say, just to add to that, is to make sure you play fast. Do not get hung up on a bad item. If you have to throw it out on the right side of the board, just do it and keep moving. People get held up and hesitate in this one, and that's what will have them do poorly in this minigame. Alright, so the next one is which door has more, and I almost wanted to laugh a bit here because this is the minigame I usually do pretty poor in. For the video that I recorded, I actually ended up doing really well. And I honestly, guys, I don't have a ton of advice for this one. The only thing I'd say, like the last game, is don't hesitate too much. Like, trust your first instinct and kind of roll with it. The more you start second guessing yourself, the less time you'll have to actually do well. And what I've done is, while running towards a door, I'll make sure to focus on counting as I'm moving. You don't want to stand still and hold yourself up. You gotta understand, as you keep going on and keep moving, the reward gets better and better. Really, the only piece of advice I could give you in this game is count quick, keep moving as you count, and don't hesitate. And last but not least is Sky High Cannons. It is pretty interesting that the advice I gave you for the last two minigames once again also applies here, and to a couple other ones as well. But really, the biggest thing that lets people down in Sky High Cannons is they hesitate. You want to be jumping from cannon to cannon as soon as you can, and a lot of these levels are just simply pattern recognition. Using your items when you get to the areas with the most coins is obviously very important. It's also important to remember items will spawn at the top of a cannon, but you want to work with what you got. You want to jump to the coins that are near you, no matter where you are. It's also important always when you play this one to make sure after you collect all the coins to get to the big cannon on top. That cannon will usually shoot you high in the sky and give you the most amount of coins you can get in the game. And then you want to work your way back down, and like I said, it's really all pattern recognition and not wasting your time just sitting in a cannon going back and forth. Alright, thank you guys so much for... Oh, that's right. So I thought it'd be important with going over the Bowser minigames as well, and the first one on our list to make sure you guys actually have a chance of beating these is burning bridges. I find this one to actually be the easiest of the bunch to win. Just follow where you are on the bridge and make sure you jump right before the fireballs come. Even the large ones are very easy to dodge if you time it just right. This game is all about timing and nothing else. The next Bowser minigame you can get is Castle Hassle. Now this one is a little difficult, but if you know what you're doing, it's very winnable. The method I always use, which does work more times than not, is going to the very bottom of the tiles and paying very close attention to where things are dropping and where lava is located. You don't want to go so far to the edge that you can't see in front of you, but just far enough where you're not going to get hit from behind. And I find that when there's 5 or 6 seconds left, you really want to slow down to make sure you win this minigame. That's the best advice I can give. Next is Sleight of Shell, which kind of feels like a staple of the Mario Party series, but this one's quite difficult. The first 2 rounds are fairly easy as long as you don't blink and you follow the chest that doesn't have the bob-ombs in it, but the last one can get quite difficult. Really, like I said, my best advice for this one is I hope you're good at the ping pong ball and the cup game, and I hope you're good at tracking things. That's really, all you can do. There isn't really much skill in this one. It's just make sure you don't blink and pay very close attention to the chest that doesn't have the bob-ombs. I wish there was something more I could give you guys as a real trick or something, but from my experience, this one's really hit or miss for me, even if I do really well. So next is Fire Away, and this is one I actually used to be really bad at and then got really good at. I got a couple of things I can give you guys to help you out. If you're playing with Joy-Cons like I do, try to focus on just the Joy-Con that you're spamming with and slowing down with, as that'll help you spam in sections where you have a lot of bullet bills coming and you gotta get high enough up. And there's also one area of bullet bills that will fire across like 15 or 20 in a row. If you sit right under those bullet bills, you'll always be safe. That's the best advice I can give you for this one. I hope it helps. And last but not least, we have The Floor is Falling. My best advice I ever got from researching this game and playing it a ton is that you should always stand on a tile where you have one to the right of you, one in front of you, one behind you, and one to the left of you. If you stand in the middle and always have somewhere to run to, you always give yourself the best chance of surviving. Once the second round kicks in and things get really fast, you gotta have quick reflexes and you also gotta get a little lucky. But I keep moving and always stay at the center of a tile, so if I gotta move one direction, I always can. So, what do you guys think? Did I give any good advice that'll help you out when you play? Did you learn anything new? I think this is one of the best side modes in any Mario Party ever, and this is why I felt dedicated enough to put this video together. It's almost like a love letter to this mode, as I hope it comes back and even better. I think this is just the start of Mario's world of its own Fall Guys. I don't know, this mode is just amazing to me, and I hope they bring it back in the Mario Party series in the future. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to drop a comment, leave a like, even sub to the channel if you think this was a good video. All that stuff really helps me out, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Keep enjoying Mario Party like me. It's one of my favorite game series around.